Tamron Hall has described her late sister Renate as very smart and very beautiful. Many questions remain about why Renate was killed nearly 2 decades ago, but is Hall any closer to finding answers? In 2016, Tamron Hall talked to People magazine about the 2004 murder of her sister Renate. Renate was the daughter of Hall's stepfather, Clarence Newton Sr., whom the host has often referred to as her true father. In her interview, Hall said Renate's body was recovered from the pool in her backyard of her Houston, Texas home. According to Hall, her sister's death had come after years spent in abusive relationships. Hall told People, "She was very smart and very beautiful. Many times she'd fall for men who took advantage of her." Hall explained that the man Renate was seeing at the time of her death was physically abusive, but she continued seeing him. After Renate's death, police considered the man a person of interest in a murder investigation. However, nothing would ever be proven, and the case is still officially unsolved. In 2019, Tamron Hall welcomed Leroy Moore onto her show. Moore is Renate's son, and he was there to talk about the death of his mother. When Hall asked what had been taken from him that day, Moore responded solemnly,
"Everything. I mean, she was my mom, so."
Moore spent years looking for answers. He was still young when his mother was killed, and in 2019, he started working with domestic violence charities to try to help others who found themselves in his mother's position.
I realized the best way to give back is to make sure that nobody else went through what I went through.
In her interview with People, Tamron Hall said that events leading up to her sister's death still haunted her, and that she believes she had handled her sister's situation in the wrong manner. For instance, after finding out about the abuse that was going on in her sister's relationship, Hall told Renate, "What's wrong with you? You're too beautiful, too smart. You can do better. All the things I've learned now are wrong. I did them all." Hall went on to say that it took her a long time to move past the guilty feelings that came when she thought about her sister. But she also added that the tragedy of losing her sister allowed her to find new purpose with her ID show, Deadline: Crime with Tamron Hall. Hall explained to People, "I've been given an opportunity to make a difference." In 2014, the Shine a Light series on NBC's Today Show made it a point to raise awareness for various causes. When it came time for Tamron Hall to choose her cause, it was ending domestic violence. On the Today Show's website, Hall wrote of an incident that happened in her Chicago home prior to Renate's death. Her sister was visiting with a companion, and Hall heard a commotion downstairs. When she went to see what it was, she saw Renate with a huge facial injury. The companion claimed that Renate had fallen. However, Hall didn't believe them and ordered that person to leave. The next morning, Hall realized that her sister had let the person back into her home, so she kicked both of them out. In her piece, Hall wrote that the incident resulted in her and her sister not speaking to one another for months. She also added that even years after Renate's murder, the incident remains a source of guilt. For Father's Day in 2015, Hall looked back on the lessons she learned from her stepfather. While speaking on the Today Show, Hall credited him for her work ethic, her sense of order, and her respect for others. She also said that it was his influence that ultimately made her a success on morning television. It wasn't the first time she'd spoken about him. In 2013, she talked about Newton as part of today's Inspired By series, saying that he was always the father she needed. Hall said she was with him during an illness and when he died, not long after Renate was killed. While speaking to Yahoo during 2020's National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Tamron Hall admitted that it had taken her family a long time before they were able to talk about what had happened to Renate. She told the outlet, "We hunkered down and embraced each other, but we did not know how to share her story." Now that she's speaking publicly about the tragedy, Hall has begun focusing on a different part of the problem when it comes to domestic abuse: pets. As Hall shared, Renate had a dog that she was completely devoted to. And in her interview with Yahoo, the TV host questioned whether a lack of pet-friendly resources for those fleeing situations of domestic violence had prevented her sister from leaving. She told the outlet, "I wondered, did she stay in the situation she was in because she didn't know where she would go or where she would take her dog?" According to Purina.com, around 48% of people who stay in abusive relationships only do so because most safe places don't allow pets. So rather than leave their pet alone with an abuser, they stay. However, organizations are trying to change that. Hall has since partnered with Purina's Purple Leash project, which is working to help provide a safe place for the pets of domestic abuse survivors. When Tamron Hall spoke to her nephew on her show, they talked about working with a charitable organization called Safe Horizon as a way to heal. Hall said she was proud of Moore, who stepped up and embraced volunteering wholeheartedly. Moore said on the show, "I had to. I was the same way. I didn't talk about my mom's death for a long time. I kind of just shoved it away for 10 years.
Just woke up one morning and decided I had to own it.
Safe Horizon has been around since 1978. Originally founded to protect and support witnesses who are afraid to testify in court, its services have expanded over the decades. Today, Safe Horizon works with more than 250,000 people every year. Hall says that her work is far from done. She explained in an interview with WTKR, "This affects so many people, your neighbors, your coworkers. This is not something that happens in another neighborhood or to someone else's family. It's in all of our families." If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic abuse, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also find more information, resources, and support at their website.